Hello and welcome everyone to episode 11 of ModXtra. We're two massive man nerds in a constant state of arrested development who worship at the broad church of nerddom. We come together every 2 weeks to talk about what we are doing in our nerdy time. I'm Chris, otherwise known as Chris. No, I'm Chris, otherwise known as True Mr. Six, and that guy over there.
Hello, is Andy, a.k.a. Ready Player 2.
Yeah, how topical, how topical. Nearly there, fucked it up right at the end.
I know, I was like, you've been practicing.
I haven't been practicing. I've been letting it rattle around in my head.
Right, in front of the mirror with your hairbrush.
I've got proper mics, innit?
In it!
Record myself, play it back to myself, record myself, play it back, you know. Make some feedback notes. Go out on the street, get a focus group together, you know what I mean?
I could see that,
Play it to them while I'm behind the two-way mirror, you know. Get a marketing guy to ask them questions. It's been tested.
It's been a good 2 weeks.
Get a few speechwriters involved.
Mr. President.
Although it won't sound like I messed it up because I'll edit it in a way that makes it sound like I got it right first time. And then this bit of conversation will seem completely weird and random.
Make sure you do.
I most certainly will. You're already saying that because on the Dice Masters podcast, I forgot to
edit out a naughty word.
To take a bit out. Yeah.
So we're not allowed to say naughty words on the Dice Masters one.
Yeah, we try to keep that one family friendly.
Not this shitty one though.
No, this bag of shite. We have less of a care for the quality of our Anglo-Saxon. So here we are, ModXtra.
Yeah, good.
We've crept up by one subscriber since we last recorded.
Welcome to the broad church of nerddom.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we've got 40 subscribers, but we're not getting 40 listeners an episode.
Oh, well.
Well. Tell your friends, though, folks.
Do.
Tell your friends.
And get them to subscribe and like and share and whatever else that it needs to be done. Yes.
Yeah, we have two goals. One is to reach 100 subscribers so that we can just say youtube.com/ModXtra. So we can get the custom URL because it's just annoying not having that.
Aye.
And then we are driving people over to our Twitch to subscribe or come over and at least watch some advertising to help us raise the funds to take ModXtra podcast onto like an annual subscription podcast service.
Yes, we are. And breaking news, people. Chris doesn't have gravy with his fish and chips.
Unless I'm having a pie.
Unless you're having a pie.
Unless I'm having a pie. I like gravy if I'm having like steak pie and chips. But if I'm just having, as we've just discussed, I have battered sausage and chips. And I'm not a fan of gravy with my battered sausage.
Does that mean that you're not really northern?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to take it to the Northern Committee and see what they say.
Any northern people out there, let us know.
Do I need to turn in my membership card now?
Yeah, they'll evict you to south of Birmingham or whatever. What do you class as south?
South of Birmingham.
South of Birmingham. See, north for me is like north of Winchester.
Yeah, Birmingham's like the border. And once you pass Birmingham, you're like, this is where the South people live. I feel a kinship with the Midlanders.
Do you? Yeah. I'm quite jealous of the Midlanders, because you get quite a lot in a little area. I remember I went to visit a friend in Nottingham, and you've got Nottingham, you've got Derby, you've got Coventry, you've got Birmingham. They're all in like spitting distance of each other, so you get good like variety if you want to go out shopping or for nights out and stuff. Whereas down here, you've not got the same. You can go to Portsmouth, but you might get stabbed. You go to Bournemouth, but that's a trek and a half. It's like a good drive. And then there's no really good roads. This is really flipping boring, but there's not really very good roads. So to get to somewhere like Brighton or Eastbourne or the other direction down to kind of Weymouth, it's a 2-3 hour drive. To the point where you might as well go to Nottingham because that's like a 3 hour drive, and then you can go to all the other places as well.
Sure.
Geography, UK geography here on ModXtra.
No subject is out of bounds.
True story there, yeah. Motorways. Fun with flags with True Mr. Six.
I'm not very good with flags.
That's because you don't like sport.
Would that help? Would it being more of a sports fan?
Yeah, because you have all the international tournaments.
Oh yeah, I see.
All my international geography comes from World Cup.
Yeah, okay, I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that.
And the Nipper's the same. He can name pretty much all the flags, not necessarily like the really obscure ones, but the majority of footballing countries. He can name the flag of. Yeah,
your major international football competing teams.
What have you been up to then?
What
have you been up to?
Yeah, what have you been up to? So, a bit of this, bit of that, keeping it real. Are we doing are we leaping into the proper what you've been up to in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, we are. Have I thrown you off because I've asked you to go first? Shall I go first?
No, I'm easy. I was just checking that I was getting a feel for what type of answer you were looking for from the question. Yeah, whether I should go full bore into I've watched this and I've done this and I've done that, or whether you were looking for, I had a chippy for my dinner tonight.
You did.
I did.
With no gravy.
Which is where the whole conversation about gravy came from, yeah. No, I can go first, that's fine. That's fine. Change your pace.
Change it up,
I suppose.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh.
What have I been up to? So
been poorly mostly.
I have been poorly. In fact, you can still hear it a bit in my voice, I think, probably.
Yes.
I'm a bit Dot Cotton today. But that's okay.
What? You're a bit cockney.
No, just a bit croaky.
Is that what happens up north when you get ill?
You get a bit Dot Cotton.
Oh, is that someone on the dog and bone? Oh, Chris is ill. Send him home.
You suddenly shrivel and go all wrinkly.
You can walk into the office with a little jar of jellied eels, and they're like, "Chris, home. You're not well."
Yeah, with a Berkeley hanging out my mouth. A dirty Berkeley. Like in the previous one, with the new one.
The old one, yeah.
With my laundrette penny on. Hey, there was a bit of EastEnders knowledge for you. That's a rare one from me.
It's good. TJ will be proud.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm not even sure how I know that though, because I don't watch EastEnders. It's just like a thing I think that everybody knows about Dot Cotton in the laundrette with the fags. So what have I been up to? So I've watched the first 3 episodes of the new Amazon Prime animated series Invincible.
Ooh, I've seen that come up. Is it worth watching? Because I've got a bit of time tomorrow to watch them.
Yes, I think it is worth watching. So it's based on a comic book by Robert Kirkman. I've read the whole comic book series, and it was really exciting and kind of very enjoyable to see it brought to life on screen. I think a little bit like Walking Dead, which actually, interestingly enough, was another Robert Kirkman, but also with stuff like Preacher. I've mentioned before, I find it hard when they adapt a comic book that I'm very, very familiar with, and if they remain pretty accurate to the narrative, it affects my enjoyment a little bit.
Is it because you know what's going to happen?
Yeah, so there's a few twists and turns in Invincible. In fact, they get to one of them pretty quick in the first 3 episodes, which, to be fair, it happens pretty quick in the comic books. It's superbly realised on the screen. The quality of animation is really good, and the voice cast is stellar. But I knew the twist was coming. I knew what was going to happen, and I know the story behind the twist. So I will carry on watching it because I want to support it, and it was a great comic book, and I do want to see if they take it in any different directions or anything. But my enjoyment of it was a little affected because I knew what was going to happen. I'm also a little concerned for the future because in the comic book, I mentioned this on our Discord the other day, the comic book has some really dark shit go down.
Ooh.
I mean, really dark shit, very, very controversial, that caused quite a bit of debate in the comic book world at the time it happened. And I'm a bit like, Jesus, will they go there? But we'll see what happens with that. So it's good. I'd recommend it. I think you should check it out. Absolutely, man. It's a really interesting superhero, but a twist on the way the superhero stories happen, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, I think if you're familiar with the comic book, you might find it a little bit, I don't know, a bit flat, because if you know what's coming, the surprise of it's not quite there.
If you know, you know. Is there any enjoyment in the fact that you are seeing the characters from your comic book come to life on the telly?
Yes, yeah. The realization of it in that form is very good.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'll absolutely carry on watching it. I definitely enjoyed it, but I know what's happening next, which is a bit of a downer. So there's that. The next episode is on this week, so I'll be catching up with that.
Oh, is it another drip feeder?
Yeah, they dropped the first 3 episodes up. Then stopped at the end of the first 3, and then going weekly from episode 4 onwards.
What are they doing to us, eh?
Yeah, I'm not into this. I mean, this is a theme that we repeatedly return to, but I'm not into this drip feeding thing at all.
It's because we get repeatedly shafted by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we've said, we understand the reasons why it exists and why they do that, but I feel like for the money I'm paying, I should be getting, if I want to binge shit, then give me the shit to binge.
Yeah, I mean, we won't go too much into it. I can see it for some of them, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. Big production, a lot of hype, a lot of interest. It's annoying, but I kind of get it. Other stuff, like, I don't know, there might be a massive following for the Invincibles, but Snowpiercer is one that we're watching at the moment that they're doing it to, and it's like, is there the want, the demands, the buzz for you to do that, or is it just plain irritating?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Speaking of which, I've watched the first 2 episodes of The Falcon and Winter Soldier as well.
Ooh. What do you think?
I don't know if are you there yet?
I'm 2 in.
You're 2 in, yeah, I'm 2 in. I've not watched 3 yet. We're recording on Friday, folks, which is why I've not watched episode 4 of Invincible and why we've not watched episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, all right. I like it better than WandaVision, definitely. I think the way the action unfolds appeals to me more.
Yeah.
Because I'm a boy. Just a big overgrown boy who likes flying people. And helicopters exploding and things. So I like that. I felt like the pace of the second episode was a bit odd. I can't put my finger on it. I think it'll sit right and see. This is the binge watching thing, because I suspect that if you were to sit down at the end and watch, and I imagine this is possibly the same with WandaVision actually, and you were to watch them all back to back, the odd pacing of episode 2 wouldn't feel quite as odd in the overall experience of watching the series.
I didn't notice anything too wonky with the pacing. I quite enjoyed it. Actually, I didn't quite enjoy it. I very much enjoy it. It scratched an itch I didn't know I had for a Marvel movie or something that we've not, Marvel movie content that we have not had for too long because of the bloody pandemic. WandaVision did not scratch that itch, although I enjoyed it. But that first kind of scene with Falcon when he's flying through what looks like the Grand Canyon, probably isn't generic canyon. Sorry, generic Middle Eastern canyon. I was like, yes. It
was a really good scene.
Is what I've been missing. This is why I love all the Marvel movies, like, and everything down from the bantery quips between each other, the Winter Soldier and Falcon, the action, just the whole high quality cinematography. Oh, nailed it.
Yeah, the attention to detail is incredible as well. I noticed. I watched episode 1 twice, and I noticed. The scene where the Winter Soldier smashes through the window and does his thing in that flashback.
Yeah.
In the lobby of the hotel, you could actually see his shadow moving across the window. Like they put an actor up there with a light behind him and had him like prowling around on the roof.
Wow.
While all those nerds were chatting. You know what I mean? And I was just like, that is an attention to detail that second to none, that, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I just think the pace was a bit odd in episode 2. I can't put my finger on it, but something was a bit, and it didn't affect my enjoyment. I was just like, oh, this is interesting, like the rhythm of it.
Yeah. I suppose I've got a couple of questions. First one was it supposed to be a movie and they changed it?
No, I don't. I think it was always intended to be a TV show.
That's impressive with the quality, because I was watching it thinking, was this supposed to be a movie and then they've kind of adapted it or re-edited it or done something to make it a series because of the state of play?
I don't know that for sure, but
no, I mean,
I believe it's the case.
It's cool. I mean, they were starting off with all the different series and stuff for Disney Plus. Makes sense. The other question is the faux Captain America, whatever his name is, John Walker. When he doesn't have the Captain America mask on, he's got quite a long face. When he puts on the Captain America mask, he has a very squish face.
Right.
Did you notice that?
You think? No, I did not notice that. Do you think they made the strap a bit short on the chin strap?
I don't know, but like, have a look at it. When you see him without the mask on, he's like, oh, he's got like a kind of a longish face. And then as soon as he puts the hat on, the helmet, the mask, whatever it is, he looks like he's got a proper squish face. It made me giggle.
Okay. I did not notice that. No, I did not notice that.
It doesn't look like it fits him very well. And I'm sure that's probably been thought about, because like if they're putting actors on roofs to do shadows, they've probably thought about the fact that he's got a weird squishy face with the mask on, or to make it look like it doesn't fit, because it doesn't fit, because it's not his. It's Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Like he's supposed to sit a bit not right, feel a bit uncanny to us.
Yeah, it looks like he's wearing his brother's hand-me-downs.
Yeah. Picked it up at the charity shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'd be curious to see how this all pans out. There's certainly some comic book context behind all this that I'd be interested to see whether they go with some of that or not.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because I don't know anything. I did not know that he existed at all until you just said that. And I kind of guessed that, obviously, that usually the characters that they bring in are comic book characters. I don't know anything about it. I wonder how it differs from the fact that I don't know what's coming. He seems quite genuine, probably got the inkling that he's going to be a bit of a knob, because else, there wouldn't be that much uproar about the fact that he's replaced Captain America. But I don't know. Where obviously you've got a lot of preconceptions and different storylines that they could use, and we know for a fact that they don't always use what they've got in the comic books. But I wonder how that changes. We have to see how it progresses on and see how our enjoyment and perception of him goes throughout the series.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They could go a multitude of ways. One thing I will say, though, is that the character, John Walker, has a card in Dice Masters. It's the US agent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. However, I'll say no more, because there's, I wouldn't want to ruin your enjoyment of the TV show by spoiling comic book storylines that may or may not be planned as a part of the direction they take this in.
Ooh, exciting.
Yep. So Falcon the Winter Soldier. I've then been getting a bit of money's worth out of the Disney Plus on the Star side and watched a totally random gangster film called Billy Bathgate. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Isn't that your mate that you played Dice Masters with first?
No, well, his name is Billy, but yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
It's got loads of people in it. It's got like Dustin Hoffman, Bruce Willis, what's his name? Steve Buscemi's in it.
Ooh.
Loads of people. Stanley Tucci. And I seem to remember it being a lot better than it turned out it was.
Okay.
So I watched it back in the 90s, thought it was good. I think, though, it's one of those where, you watch a slightly older film and you think, if they'd have made that today, this would have looked and felt very, very different.
Yeah.
It was one of them. Like, there's a scene where he's, like, explosively violent. He's just like, meh.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's nothing. You know what I mean? But I think it was just about the type of sensibility in the filmmaking. So there's that, and me and the lad have been watching Pirates of the Caribbean with two films into it, yeah. I really like the first one. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure.
I do like the first one.
Lad enjoyed the first one, but the second one didn't land so good with him.
No, to me, the series of films deteriorates quite rapidly, like bread in a bath.
Yeah. He's been asking to watch it, though. He's got this little mate at school whose parents clearly let him watch wildly inappropriate stuff for his age. I mean, seriously inappropriate stuff. Harrison came over the other day and asked me, that's the Mini Mr. Six, folks, Harrison. He came over and asked me the other day, he said, who's Pennywise? I was like, where have you heard about Pennywise? And he was like, well, my little mate at school has been telling me all about Pennywise and It. And I was like, has he watched it? He was like, yeah, he watched it on Netflix. I'm like, for real? I won't even watch it. Joe, even I don't like those movies, Harrison. You know what I mean? But some of the stuff he comes home and asks to watch, obviously, you can't let him fall behind the peer group. And one of the things he asked to watch was Pirates of the Caribbean. So I was like, yeah, sure. I think that's all right. It's a bit stabby, but...
No, it's Disney at its best, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so hopefully soon, he'll be ready for some of the bigger stuff. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, we tried him out on Avengers Assemble, but I skipped Iron Man. I didn't do Iron Man with him. I just jumped straight in on Avengers Assemble, mostly because Joe had concerns. The hashtag competitive wife, she had concerns about the sort of terrorism-y, war-y bit of it all.
Oh, okay.
Being a bit real, you know, and the fact that he shags the journalist early doors.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. You don't see anything, though, do you?
No, but I don't know. Whatever. When the boss speaks, you do as she says.
True story.
So that's my Disney Plus stuff, and then on Netflix, I've done loads actually in the last 2 weeks. I'm going on a bit here, aren't I? I'll wrap it up. On Netflix, I've just watched the new documentary produced by Will Smith, Amend: The Fight for America.
Oh, is that Wiki Wild Wild West? Good.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy. But he's taking a kind of alternative look at US history and trying to explain why some of the culture is the way that it is today with regards to race relations and equality across the US. I'll not dwell on that though. Not particularly nerdy, but interesting to see Will Smith involved in something like that.
So you don't go for like gun culture and stuff?
No, gun culture isn't. There's a big focus on legislation that affected race equality, women's rights, gay rights. It seems to be much more focused on the it's called Amend because the narrative is told through the constitutional amendments.
Okay. So
yeah,
that sounds like a very you thing to watch.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. Yeah. But I'll not dwell on that because it's not particularly nerdy, but it was very good, very informative, and I found some interesting stuff in there. And then finally, Line of Duty has started on the BBC again.
That's supposed to be really good. I've never bothered to watch it.
I don't think it's that good, man.
Do you not?
No, my missus loves it, but it is fundamentally flawed at its core. But if you haven't seen it, it's hard to explain.
To me, it looks like the Casualty / Holby City / stuff that you stopped watching as soon as you got access to like Sky, Netflix, and all the other stuff. Yeah, it definitely.
So there's definitely a quality of acting problem. Everyone's going on about how great the acting is in it, and it's not. It's really dreadful. The performances are awful. And I think the thing, it's got a bit of a mystery element to it. So they're the anti-corruption unit, and they do blue-on-blue investigations looking for corrupt coppers, bent coppers,
Yeah.
But there's just something, like they orchestrate these situations so that they can do the things that the show's famous for. Like they do these really hard-hitting, interrogation type things that are very popular, and they're really smarmy and clever because they go, well, what about this bit of evidence here? But it's all really convoluted, and when you actually stop and stand back and look at it, you're like, but that's an utter coincidence. That's an absolute. There's no, there was no. That just happened, or the actual anti-corruption unit caused a lot of the shit themselves, and then someone else ends up carrying their water, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, if you hadn't been investigating that guy, then this gangster wouldn't have thought he was corrupt and therefore wouldn't have approached him and got him caught in this really tricky situation. And he wasn't bent in the first place. You ended up making him bent by being dicks to him. So I wouldn't bother, but the missus loves it. So
I'll keep avoiding it then.
Yeah, I think the acting's terrible. It's really convoluted and everything's just very kind of, like I say, they just orchestrate stuff to be a particular way, and then when you actually stop and think about what's happening in front of you, like, that wouldn't have happened. They've just created this story. I can't explain it. It annoys me, but the missus likes it, so I have to watch it.
Fair enough.
And there you go. That's it. I'm done.
Done.
I haven't read many comic books, and I haven't watched much else movie-wise.
Hokey cokey. On to me then. It's a nice little change.
Yeah.
I have. What have I been up to? I have been working like a dog. I've been in the office this week as we record, so less time overall when I take into fact commutes and getting up early and everything else. I have done a few bits though. So I finished off the first Expanse novel, and that is, if you're into reading, that's well worth a read. It is in many ways very similar to the series, and in many ways quite different from the series. So it follows that same vein. You obviously, as you get, I think with reading, you get a lot more background, and there's more information that you can get from being the author's able to explain to you what they're thinking, etc., as opposed to an actor trying to portray it with a facial expression. There is nothing to do with the political side of things in the book. So that's all for the TV series. So
Avasarala
does not make any form of appearance in the first book, nor does it take any view of the kind of higher political side of things. It's all done with either Holden or Miller, the two kind of on the ground main kind of protagonists of the first series. There's a few kind of little changes, but you get to the same place at the end of the book as you do series one.
Right.
So yeah, in a roundabout way, it's similar, but there's enough to keep you engaged and see what's going to happen next. I'm quite happy to read a book if I've seen the series, so it's not too bad.
Sure.
So after I finished that, I have moved on and I've read Starship Troopers that we spoke about last week, the last episode.
Oh yeah, you've read the novel?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. And do you feel more fascist now as a result of it?
See, I didn't get that from reading the book. Now, I will wholeheartedly admit to being, in many ways, things go over my head. I always have, they always will. So sometimes I do not get the inner and deeper meaning of things. It came across as, what I noticed, that it follows Johnny, Juan, Rico from leaving school through to becoming Captain Rico of Rico's Roughnecks. The bit in between, other than some of the same names appearing in the film and some very consequential similarities, is completely different. There's the film is take a theme, take a characters, and then get there. We knew that, didn't we? It's nowhere near the same story. There is a lot of stuff in the book which explains him in a classroom being taught about different things, such as their society and how they believe that corporal punishment changes the way that makes things better. So they're looking back at the 21st century at kind of how things were done and how crimes were dealt with. And how badly they were done, with people thinking that people can be rehabilitated and to take a lighter view, and that doesn't work, and how they're all shocked at the fact that someone would cause a crime and not be flogged, and how on earth are we going to stop people, and then saying I'll be shocked that you couldn't walk through a park at night, you'd be too scared to, and what kind of horrible land must it have been if you can't, if you don't feel safe walking through a park at night and that kind of stuff. But it seemed to me that it wasn't kind of cramming it down your throat that this is how life should be. More to it, very much, it was trying to explain how the characters thought and how this world that you were engrossing yourself in the book, how they all thought. But as I said, some things just go over my head. I did enjoy it. As a read, it was pretty good. It's quite cool. It's very much in, you follow him throughout it all. He leaves school. He joins the MI. What was it? The God, and you read it on the mobile. MI is what
Mobile
infantry. That's it. That's what they just call it, the MI on it. And then he goes through his training, and then he joins up, and then he's new, and then they have a few fights, and then he's not new, and then he goes on and goes through officer training, and then comes out the other end. It's good. It's a good read, actually. If anyone out there, it's not overly expensive. It's about a £5 if you have a hunt on iBooks. In fact, there's a version that's a £5 and there's a version that's a £10, and I'm not entirely sure what the difference is. So go for the £5 one. That's the one I got, and I read it, and it was good. So done that. So I just finished that. So I'm just thinking about what to read next. Looking forward to our episode. I think I might reread Ready Player One.
Sure.
Because I watched it for our episode this week, and I think I want to kind of revisit the fuller story. And I'd also like to apologise, guys, because obviously we didn't do the watch party as we planned, but that was due to me going back to work and being knackered, and Chris also being very ill.
Yes.
But if there's a call in for it, chuck it on the Facebook, message us. We can probably do it. We've got to the 16th until it comes off Netflix. So if anyone out there really wants to watch it with us, then we can make it happen. I'll definitely watch that movie again, but we'll come on to that later. Other stuff that I've done, I have been plugging away at a few episodes of 24, Series 2. I do find it quite dated, but I am persevering. I've been told that Series 3 is badass, so I'm going to see how Series 2 pans out and keep going into Series 3. Not done any Vikings. I too have watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Family-wise, we finished all however many series of Malcolm in the Middle. That's done. And we've moved on to Meet the Goldbergs, which is quite exciting because I've never seen that before. Whereas the other ones...
I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's funny.
It's good. It reminds me a lot like The Wonder Years, but instead of in The Wonder Years where it was filmed in the 80s and set in the 50s, it's like filmed like pretty recently and set in the 80s, which also makes me feel incredibly old because The Wonder Years, I remember going, wow, that was ages ago. And now the 80s don't really seem that far away. So that's that. And that's about me, other than work, sleep, and cutting into... Oh, Apex. I've been getting in quite a lot of Apex and just not improving, not getting any better. Not getting any worse, but not getting any better. But enjoying it nonetheless.
It'll come. We talked about this the other day. I'm not enjoying it much at the minute.
No, you're finding it quite hard. I think there is a big difference, and I feel a big difference when I'm playing on my own and joining up with a couple of people it randomly pairs you with, who may stick together, be good as a squad, be great, or may just disconnect or just wander off and do their own thing.
Yeah, I hate that.
That is a difference to when you've got a group of mates kind of nattering away or working together and having a laugh and doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is that I feel like people are taking it far too seriously, even in the casual match space. So if you're a first-person shooter fan out there, you'll understand when we talk about the ideas of pubs and ranked. And Apex is the same. It's got public lobbies, which are just kind of open access, go in and have a play for fun. But then you've got the ranked lobbies, which have a ranking system and a point system. So you accrue these points and you go up the ranks. And I feel like people are playing pubs like they're playing ranked, like they're going for the platinum medals and what have you. And I'm just like, get a grip, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but I've got the Apex bug.
I find the game hard to... Yeah,
I've got it. Every time, the bite at the moment is on. It will definitely fade after a while. It always does, but at the moment I am hankering for some Apex at the end of the
day. Fair enough, yeah. I'm not quite as on board. But that is what it is.
But it's a cycle that, will probably come back after a while.
Yeah, I think I just get bored of it quicker than you do. And then the new season starts and I'm back on it again, and then I just bore faster.
Yeah. As I said, I am easily pleased and things do go over my head, so... And I think that's me.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, that's our intro done, I suppose. Another long one. I think we just need to actually start doing a TV section, don't we? Maybe.
Yeah, do TV, film, comic book, 3 segments.
Yeah. We are still a little bit unsure of structure or what the structure of an episode should look and feel like. So by all means, let us know in the comments below if you've got any thoughts or suggestions with regards to that. However, for the remainder of the episode, we are following our standard structure that we have kind of started operating by. We're going to take a look at a film in Andy's Retro Corner, although it's not so retro, this one.
No, it's not.
And then we're going to take a look at comic book in Chris's Comic Book Corner and have a bit of a natter and share some thoughts after a rewatch and a reread. Our film this week is Ready Player One, and our comic book is the first volume of Grant Morrison's The Invisibles. And with this long intro now, I think that'll probably do it for the episode. That'll take us to the end, and we'll wrap it up after we've taken a look at those two.
Nice. Right. Well, what should we do first?
Your choice this week.
What did we do first last time?
The film, I think, didn't we? Starship Troopers.
We did.
We spent quite a long time on Starship Troopers.
Well, let's go with comic book first.
Okie dokie then. Right. Well, we'll jump into Chris's Comic Book Corner then, folks. Right, okay then, here we are. It is the Comic Book Corner. If this is your first time joining us today, then what we like to do is take a look at an older comic book volume or a comic series. Andy here is a bit of a comics noob. I've been reading them since I was a young lad, so we place something in front of Andy's eyes as a novice and see what he thinks, what he feels about it, but mostly making the choice based on what I've enjoyed through the years of comic book reading. And we are today looking at Grant Morrison's The Invisibles. It was published by Vertigo Comics, DC Vertigo Comics, back, I want to say, in the late 90s. I've forgotten the year. I actually have my copy of the first volume here, so I'll just read you the blurb. I can't find the blurb. There is no blurb. It's all just quotes from other artists on the back. Yeah, I'll read you this one here. The Invisibles represents the first scroll draft of a self-aware manifesto from the future in the form of a madcap sci-fi hypersigil comic book. The text was written in a state of trance, exhaustion, sickness, fever, intoxication, clarity, and joy. It lives and breathes our air and looks at us through the many eyes of these pages. It's alive, willingly capturing and demanding to be played with, to be stroked and petted and tormented with sticks. It brings power, taboo, and strange knowledge. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an interesting blurb, if ever there was one, but quite appropriate. That was from the back of Anarchy for the Masses, the Disinformation Guide to the Invisibles, written by Patrick Neely and Kerith Couse-Bigai, because the actual back of Volume 1 just says, watch out for Grant Morrison, he's a regular comics apocalypse. But it's definitely an interesting title. It's part of what I would probably describe as a bit of a golden age for DC Vertigo Comics. There was kind of a 20-year period from the mid-90s through to the early 2000s where they were churning out some really great creator-controlled stuff, and The Invisibles was in amongst the midst of that. But it's a curious one as well, because it doesn't really follow your kind of conventional comic book format in many respects. So let's now hand over to Andy and find out what his first impressions were of Volume 1.
It was a hard read.
And, yeah, okay, sure.
I'm not going to lie, it was a hard read. I don't know how to describe when something is a hard read. I would describe things like Lord of the Rings with Tolkien, the way he writes, just not flowing very, very well. You know, the subject may be fantastic, not going to knock Lord of the Rings, but how it's kind of converted onto the page and then converted into your head whilst you're reading, it doesn't flow. I didn't think it flowed. I found it jumpy and quite awkward to kind of work out what's going on. Didn't really engage with any of the characters. Didn't really kind of the main character in it. Didn't like him.
Who? Jack Frost.
Yeah.
Dane.
Yeah. Didn't. You know. I wouldn't, if he got killed, not sure I'd really bother. Or I'd be, you know, I wouldn't care. As in, opposed to the guy from the Y wing from the last episode, the guy
Why the Last Man?
Why the Last Man? I mean,
Yorick
is a knob, but I liked him. You know, he had a depth to him, and he was, you know, as much as Like he was very kind of sanctimonious and self-righteous. I liked him, whereas I didn't particularly like this guy at all. None of the support. I didn't like it.
All right. Well, that was a short segment. Thanks for listening, folks. It's a really interesting book because I think it's supposed to put you on edge. It's confrontational in the way that it's written, and I think it's intended by Grant Morrison to make you go, "What?" It's psychedelic. It's about subculture. I mean, if you look into some of the stuff that Grant Morrison speaks about in his private life, he's like this occultist shaman guy who claims to have legitimately written sigil spells into the Invincible, so that when you're reading it, he's actually casting magic on you to disrupt your thought processes. Yeah, legit. But I mean, can you deny that? You've just said you found it a very hard read and felt really disjointed when you were reading it.
I don't particularly believe that. I believe that it. I mean, for what I read, I mean, I got up to book 6. Admittedly, I just stopped because I was like, I don't like it. I'm not going to bother. It was slow. Nothing happened. It was quite a long time of going through it, and I can't think of, there was nothing of any interest that happened that from the other stuff we read would have all been dealt with over the course of the first comic. So I thought it was quite slow. I don't know if the spell to find it, don't think that his saying that he's put a spell to make you feel uncomfortable reading it isn't just because, well, in my opinion, it was a bit shit.
No, he's legitimately a bit of a
oddball.
He's a subculture guy, yeah, definitely. I don't know, I don't believe that. I'm not really into all the spell casting stuff myself, but I think what's interesting about the book is that element of confrontation, where it's challenging the reader in the absorb. It's interesting actually that we're doing this the same week as we're doing Ready Player One, because they are both fundamentally about pop culture, counterculture, but they take two very different angles, but they are fundamentally telling the same story in some respects. It's about the oppressed, those who are considered superficial, those who belong to marginalized parts of society, who actually possess the power, and how they rise up against conservative values that may be oppressing them. I think Ready Player One does it in a very different way. Very different way.
I mean, I find the content with it. I mean, the content is less much of an issue, although I found that it was quite slow coming forward. But just the reading the words on the page, it didn't flow. I mean, because you had the Mad Tramp for like the first age. And he just rambled shite, and like it was very hard to just read what he was saying, because it was just all jumpy. I find myself just skipping over stuff because I was like, it's just not worth reading, because it just was just like a load of gobbledygook. So I'd just kind of skip his bubbles and just read the kind of main character's like speech.
Yeah, although part of the kind of mystery unfolding, part of the, I suppose, the confrontational element of the author challenging the reader, is that within Mad Tom's bollocks there are important elements of story communicated, and in that moment of confrontation you've gone, this is fucking bollocks. And so that one sentence that's buried in amongst 50 mad ramblings has passed you by. Now whether that's on you or whether that's on Grant Morrison is an interesting question. I think we probably would have to conclude that's on Grant Morrison to some degree. But it's interesting that is a quite a seminal piece of work that just doesn't click with you at all.
No, I mean, I'm sure
I suspected that might be the case when I suggested it, to be honest.
Written the other, like any of the other stuff I've read, because I know I've recognised his name.
Grant Morrison. So he wrote We Three, that we read some months back now.
Now I understand why we three only had like about 4 words said on it.
Well, he's written. He did a very famous run on Batman. I don't think you would have read that.
So he's not done Preacher or anything like that. I recognise his name.
No. I mean, he's been around a lot. He's had a very famous run on Batman. He had a famous run on the Justice League. In fact, there's a really famous story that he was responsible for called the Tower of Babel,
right?
Which is a famous storyline where Batman has figured out the weaknesses of each member of the Justice League as a contingency plan.
Oh yeah, you've said that. That actually sounds really good.
Yeah, and that was all Grant Morrison. He had a famous run on the X-Men as well. That was particularly popular, certainly the early parts of that, because it was, especially with the artwork by Frank Whiteley. So yeah, he's around. He's a very well-known comic book writer. He's done an awful lot of stuff in his career. But his creator, his own creator-controlled stuff, where he's not writing characters for the big publishers, is often off the wall or a bit wacky. Or it's like the psychedelic side of the comic book world.
Right.
And not particularly mainstream at all.
So, what are your thoughts on it? It's obviously one that you like.
Yeah, I mean, it was very influential on me when I would have been 18, 19 when I first read it. I was really interested in the idea that we're fundamentally dealing with unpleasant characters who do unpleasant things, but they're our heroes. They're the central protagonists of the story, and that they've been placed in this position because it's the only way to fight back against the outer church, the dark forces of the kind of like the right-wing occult that's the power that they're fighting against. I think it's really interesting that it's, rather than taking a sort of left-wing view on it all, it goes right out into the far reaches of culture and takes a very kind of anarchist point of view. I think Volume 2 is better than Volume 1 in some respects. It is a hard start. It is a hard start for the book, but I like the fact that the Invisibles, the team of the Invisibles, are made up of a scroaty kid from Liverpool who robs cars and argues with his teachers and stuff, and you got King Mob, who's just like this sort of mod rocker dude, but he's also an assassin on the side, and a witch like Ragged Robin, and a transvestite Brazilian. Although I don't know, has that come up at this point?
No.
Were you aware that what's her face was a transvestite?
No, I didn't. I didn't get that
like
far.
A Harlem Street kid who's also a martial artist. Like they're not. It doesn't follow any standard conventions. It's asking you as the reader to consider that there's other ways, and the disjointed element of it all is interesting. Now, it's interesting. I often think about Lost as a kind of comparison point, because in this first book, Grant Morrison's dropping a lot of kind of seeds in there around the mystery of the unseen world and the invisible college, or the invisible world that we can't see beyond what our senses can immediately pick up on. That there's deeper layers hidden in what we're looking at, and Lost is like that. Here's this mystery that needs unraveling and exploring, and who are these villains, who are these people. The difference is that this eventually pays off. Like it has something to say, and it's got a kind of conclusion to it all. That the mystery stuff that you get from the likes of Lost doesn't give you. The sort of mystery box theory around the Invisibles is fleshed out because it does reveal stuff and give you answers as the story goes on. And there's a political element to it all, of course, as well. It makes a political statement. But when I was that age, I like the fact that it like the pop culture references it was making, it felt like it was written for me, like the ghost of John Lennon, and like the power of Barbalith representing is created on the pop culture and the nerd culture that I love and enjoy, But does it stand up next to The Preacher? Yeah, possibly not. I think if I'd have put Volume 2 in front of you first, you'd be saying very different things about it right now. Volume 2, they go out to the States and it's a lot more kind of high octane. The artwork's a lot better in Volume 2 as well. In fact, that's definitely its downfall. The artwork in the Invisibles is a mess.
Yeah, it's not too great.
No, not at this point. There is better artwork later in the series, but
I wonder.
I definitely found the artwork challenging.
If I could have stomached it better if it was, if I picked up the comic, the first one, and then didn't go straight into the second, and maybe had it more drip fed, which is ironic, saying that we just moaned about how they do that with TV series. But yes, it wasn't one for me.
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, I read it. I read it in trade paperbacks. I bought this and read it in volumes. I mean, this volume in my hand now, it is literally a first printing of the trade paperback. I bought it at the time it came out. I'm just looking at the date on the inside cover. So 1996. So I'd have been a touch younger. I'd have been sort of 16, 17 at that point.
I wonder. Well, I mean, I don't know if I've. Obviously, I don't read a lot of comic books, so I wonder if it's more. I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend it for someone who's listening to this going, "Oh, I could start. I want to read some comic books." I would not start with that. This go pick up Preacher or.
Would we start with Watchmen? That's what we started with.
Well, if you're already into nerd culture, I don't think that was a bad. That's not a bad one to start on. And if you've got hair on your bits and hair missing from the top, then if you're older, then I don't see why not. That's a weird analogy, but never mind.
Yeah, I'm not going to explore that one.
No. So if you're let's try that one again. If you're an adult, then The Watchmen isn't a bad one to start off with. In fact, it's quite a nice introduction to the fact that it may knock away some stereotypes of what you think you're going to get when you read a comic. It's not Beano, it's not Nasher and Dennis the Menace or what's the one, Desperate Dan. You can have a good story relayed to you in a different format to say a novel or a TV series or a film. But yeah, this one is a bit step too far to me. I'm not a very clever person, and it felt like there was 1,000,001 deep and meaningful things that were trying to be related to my simpler brain.
Oh, bless you. All right, well, I don't think there's much more else to say on that one there then. If you like random psychedelic comic books with a political edge about the power of the subculture against, the dark conservative monolith, then that's the book for you. Otherwise, maybe check out something else.
Yeah, I know. On the flip side, however, from Chris's description of it, if you are a comic book fan, if you have read comic books for a long time and you like things like Preacher or whatever else, and you've not read it, from Chris's reaction, and if you are more into the kind of looking at the deeper and underlying messages that come across, it might well be for you.
It may well be, yeah. Let's see. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts, if you've read it, what your thoughts are on the Invisibles or Grant Morrison in general. Whether you engaged with what he was doing with the Invisibles, what he was trying to achieve there, or whether you need more of a kind of structured narrative. I think that's possibly what the problem with it is. The narrative's not very structured, is it? It's not. It's sprawling and big and messy. Let's see. Okay, well, let's try and find you something a bit better then for next episode, shall we?
What you got for me?
I think let's go back into the world of superheroes. Let's take a look at a really big event during the 90s when I were a youthful comic book reader, and let's take a look at the death of Superman.
Ooh,
yeah, which I think was, off the top of my head, about 95-ish that happened, give or take.
How interesting.
It was a massive comic book event, as I'm sure you can imagine. Really interesting story, told in a really interesting way. And let's see how that tickles you.
I'll give it a go. Let's see what it is. I tell you what, you've just reminded me that neither of us has mentioned is that we, since the last episode, have both, I believe, watched the Snyder cut of...
I've not seen it yet.
Oh, have you not?
No.
That shocks me. Mr. DC?
Yeah, so you can't rent it. You have to be a Sky Movie subscriber.
Oh, see, I've got Now TV.
You got it on your Now TV,
and it just popped up, and I was like, "Bloody hell! I can't believe this is free." How interesting! Oh well,
yeah. So I went to it on my Skybox,
yeah,
and it obviously wouldn't let me watch it. And then it said we want 18-month contracts on Sky Movies for an extra whatever it is, £12 a month. I was like, fuck that! I'm not that desperate to watch the Snyder Cut, basically. I'm just not. It hasn't excited me. The build-up to it didn't excite me enough to make me go, oh, man, I really want to see this.
Well, we will save... I'm sure that you will watch it in the near future, so we will save...
I'll get around to it.
Save our conversations on that nugget for maybe the next episode.
I'd have watched it if they'd have said, yeah, just drop £7 on it now.
Yeah.
I'd have done it. But their marketing ploy failed. Because rather than earning a new Sky Movies customer, which is obviously the intent of what they did there, they've lost out on what could have been an easy, I don't know, up to a tenner from me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. It obviously didn't work for me because it wasn't. I didn't have to pay for it. I was shocked. I wasn't even looking for it because I thought that I'd have had to have put some money down on it. And then I went to work, and the guy I worked, well, I didn't go to work. I spoke to the guys at work because that was before I had to go in. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I watched it last night." I went, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it's just on there." And I had a look, and it just flagged up straight away on my Now TV. And I was like, "Well, that's not worked because I haven't had to pay anything for it." 4 hours though.
So now TV, you just got to drop a lump sum, haven't you, and buy the box?
Not even that.
Is that?
I bought a dongle so that I could plug it into the telly for the football, but I didn't realise actually there's an app on the PlayStation, so I could just have done that. And then you've just got a bit like Netflix. Like I've got it on my phone, I've got it on my iPad, I've got it on the PlayStation.
What do you actually have to pay then? What's the...
You just pay monthly and you can cancel it any time. And then the thing is, what you do is you cancel it and it goes, do you really want to cancel it? Or should we just half the price for 6 months? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like the movies, I think I can't remember, I think I got the movies for Christmas, went to cancel it. And they went, what about if we just charge you like £7? And I was like, right. And it's paid off. Same with the sports. When the sports is supposed to be like something like £25, and you go to cancel it, and it's like, nah, okay, that is a bit high. How about 15? So yeah, right. And then when it jumps up, you just do the same thing.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting because the thing that put me off it was the effort to get me into a contract.
Right. Oh, the thing with it is no contract. You just cancel it any time.
Yeah, so I could open it up for a month, get Justice League watched, and then do one. Oh, actually, that could work because I think there's something else on Sky that Joe wanted to see. Can't remember what though. Okay, well there you go. So Death of Superman. Anyway.
Yeah,
that's going to be the next. That's going to be the next comic book review. All right, well we'll wrap up the comic book corner there and move on to Andy's retro corner. Yes, okay, welcome back then, folks. It's Andy's movie corner, and I'll hand you over to him to get us started.
Thank you very much. So the movie that unfortunately we did not watch party with you guys, however, we will get back on the horse with that in the near future, was Ready Player One, which is a lot more recent than most of the other films that we have looked at recently, but it has a very, very, very 80s retro vibe to it. The blurb
it certainly does.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The back of the box is from Netflix, and I am learning that the descriptions for these movies on Netflix and Prime or whatever else are shockingly bad. But I'll read it to you anyway. In a world on the brink of collapse, a talented gamer takes the lead in a series of challenges to win ownership of a massive virtual reality universe. Doesn't really give much away. Doesn't really kind of do much. But
No.
Let's explain. So the brief outline of the story is that in the near future, the world is dominated by the Oasis, which is a virtual reality world where people basically go in to kind of live, earn money, play games, use their lives. So as a result, the actual world's a bit pants for most people. And there's a large company. Well, the people who created it, the guy who created it dies and leaves the ownership to his company, to the person who can complete these challenges within the virtual reality universe. And it's very, very much themed on what he likes, which is everything nerdy and 80s you can think of, which is fantastic. And then in the real world, there's a company who's desperately trying to get these challenges completed so they could take over the world and be mean and make money off advertising. And they're already a massive company that are doing horrible things to people. And we follow one person's journey to complete these challenges and become the owner of the Oasis, and in turn make sure that the horrible company doesn't do that. That kind of sums it up a little bit better to a degree.
Yeah. Like I said, just like the Invisibles, really.
It's nothing like the Invisibles.
It absolutely is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Explain.
A celebration of counterculture against nasty, evil, in this instance, a corporation. Invisibles is a government. The power of the people rising up to defeat the dark evil forces. You got your little poor scroat, hero of the piece, celebrating subculture. It's exactly the same.
Although produced in a easier to consume format.
in a very different way, yeah. In a very different way. You've read the book. I've never read the book.
Yeah, I want to reread the book. There's some stuff in it. So, for your and the listeners' benefit, there's a few extra bits in there that it describes. Like the Oasis is very much where everything goes on. So it kind of hints on it. Like in the book, that's where he goes to school. So it's never really explained. He's just some random guy who apparently can just survive by living at his auntie's and then going into a secret van to go into the, there's no need for food or an income for him, which it doesn't really explain very well. Like people like you see in the one of the open cutscenes, there's a big ugly granny doing a pole dance in a trailer, yeah. But it goes into more detail. Like you can earn money basically by being a pole dancer in the Oasis, and then people will pay for your pole dance, even though in real life you're, some kind of stereotypical trailer trash granny. So it goes into. Has
nobody cracked that yet? Sorry, I was just going to say, is that not a thing already? Like with what's the thing called? The
TikTok.
The virtual reality. Oculus. Is it Oculus?
I've not really looked at that much.
So I'm certain there's some guy out probably in LA somewhere.
Yeah.
Who's got a room full of nerds trying to figure out how to turn the virtual reality experience into a porn thing.
I'm sure that when it does happen, it will be firstly for porn. So it goes into a bit more detail. That there is the challenges are take a bit longer. You can tell. I think we discussed it a couple of days ago. It's condensed the storyline into the film.
Yeah,
and you can pick up on that. I mean, I picked up on it because I read the book, but Chris also picked up on it from not reading the book that something wasn't quite there, or there were some missing parts that wasn't quite explained. I think, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And to be clear, I said it completely unsolicited. Like, Andy didn't nudge me in that direction. He just said, "What did you think?" I was like, "Yeah, well, I'll share some of those thoughts now." But one thing I did say was that I felt like there was a bit missing. Like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt like there was just something not quite there. And at times, I felt like they were rushing through some bits like maybe they were trying to cram it all in. I mean, it was already running at, what was it, a 2 hour
20, I think.
plus. Yeah. I just sensed like there was bits missing, or some bits were skimmed over or rushed over in an effort to get to, the big epic spectacle scenes, which is obviously what a lot of people who had read the book would have probably been hungry to see on the big screen. Which for me, who hadn't read the book, I was a bit like, huh? Well, that was a bit, what? They didn't really spend a lot of time on that. That's an important bit. Like the whole fact she was like, welcome to the resistance, and all the stuff that she was talking about, like her desire to win the competition, Artemis, her desire to win the competition was all about this history with her father and what the IOI corporation had done to him. And I just felt like it was a throwaway thing. Like she said, no, you just want the glory, but I want it for this reason here, because this really tragic thing happened to me. And he was like, all right, okay, move on. And then she welcomes him to the resistance. He's like, all right, I'll be in the resistance now then. He's like, okay, good. Thanks for coming on board. Let's now go back into the Oasis for this really fun scene that we want. And I just felt like maybe the book would have fleshed that out more. You'd have understood it more. You'd have had more insight into what's going on in the characters' hearts and minds. Like I said to you, we are going to be spoiling if you've not seen it before, but there's a scene in it where the big nasty corporation, in an effort to capture him in the real world so that they can interfere with his plans in the virtual reality world, they set bombs on the trailer park, which are in stacks. Trailer parks go up, not outwards in the future, and blow up the stack, which his auntie, who looks after him, is in, and all these people, the community he belongs to. And he's just like, oh, they blew up the stack. That's a bit shit. And I was like, what? Not even a funeral or even a moment's grief on the character. I was like, come on. He just runs to his headset and goes, guys, they found me in the real world. They're coming after me. And certain things happen subsequent to that. But there's no moment's pause to let it sink in how horrible what the corporation is, what they've just done, and his personal connection to the stack they've just blown up.
Yeah, I wonder, let me just check what's the age? So it's a 12.
The certificate.
Yeah. So that might also have and again, I've noticed with a lot of movies that, say, back kind of 20 years ago would have been a 15 and maybe could have explored more in regards to death. I mean, if they make it a 12, they get more people in. In the way, although, Avengers deal with it a bit later on, but in the initial Avengers movie, there's buildings collapsing, people must be dying, but they don't touch on it, although they do. I think they deal with it pretty well kind of going into Age of Ultron, but that philosophy behind it. But yeah, I mean, there's not, he doesn't even think about it. Well, he does it obviously in the book a little bit more, although his auntie's not very nice.
Sure. I mean, they sell it more as the auntie's boyfriend is the problem, don't they, in the movie?
Yeah. Who's the guy that crops up in loads of stuff? He's Brit. He's been in loads and loads of stuff. Yeah,
in those like kind of little ancillary roles all the time. Yeah. But I definitely felt sense that there was something missing. I felt like some bits seemed compacted and just jammed in. The whole thing of there's a resistance here against this horrible corporation that's basically trying to steal this prize that was intended for the masses. Like, what's his name? The designer dude wanted it to be won by a gamer, didn't he?
Yeah.
Someone who understood and recognised the importance of like the pop culture of it all. And she had a cause, and it was all about what IOI had done to her dad, and it just felt really like she just mentioned it as a throwaway line, and
it skimmed over a bit for the benefit.
Yeah, some of the substance was missing as a result. Yeah,
for the benefit of some of the most awesome action sequences.
Yeah, I mean the on-screen spectacle is something else. I mean, it's Spielberg though, isn't it? Spielberg does that stuff really, really well. Although he does substance really well as well, which is why I'm surprised some bits felt as rushed as they were. But yeah, some of the look and the feel of it, and also like the virtual reality world meant that some of the uncanny valley feel of the computer generated stuff worked.
Yeah, fitted in. If it didn't look real, it didn't matter because you're in a virtual reality world. So yeah, that was
the point. Yeah. Whereas I've always had a problem with when I'm just trying to think of some examples now. Like in one of the maybe the second or the third Matrix, there's a scene where it's all an entirely computer generated Keanu Reeves, and it just, you can tell, and it looks shit. And there's one of the Spider-Mans as well. Spider-Man who was all kind of wobbly, and
I was thinking there's a Spider-Man where he just, at the time, spot on. Looking back, doesn't compare to kind of how things are done. I mean, it was very quickly. It was like maybe like a couple of years by looking back, and it was like, wow, things have improved quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. But it worked in this film. It worked because it was supposed to look and feel like that.
Yeah.
Because Spielberg is obviously, we know he's interested in this stuff. He did the Tintin movie with the sort of the motion capture animated stuff. I think he was involved behind the scenes on Polar Express. So we know he's interested in this style of filmmaking. And Ready Player One was the perfect way of realising that. So it worked for me. But some of the character designs, I just didn't like them.
Right.
I just wasn't keen on them.
I can imagine that this film, more than any others, had the busiest IP lawyers and marketing ever to try and make sure that they could secure all the different sometimes throw away little bits that related back to a sometimes obscure, sometimes not so obscure kind of previous movie or other movie. And my question...
Yeah. It's spilling over with that stuff.
My question is, what was was there a few things, or what was the main thing that you went, ooh, that's that from that film?
Oh, wow. I mean, I noticed an awful lot of stuff as I was watching it. It was almost distracting, actually.
It's also, you have to watch it first for the story and then watch it again. I found my second watch, I was just like almost kind of trying to tally and like spot the stuff from other movies.
Yeah, and there was a bazillion things, and not just movies either. It was computer games, it was cartoons, it was TV shows. It was all crammed in there. One thing that I particularly enjoyed was, I know it's very at the forefront of the film, is the Back to the Future stuff.
Yeah,
like he's got the Rubik's Cube, and it's the Zemeckis effect, and he drives a DeLorean, which is fine. But one thing I liked was that when the DeLorean came on screen, or when he did the Zemeckis Cube, there was this little motif of the Back to the Future soundtrack that they rolled into very subtly into the soundtrack of the Ready Player One. And it was almost instantly identifiable to me for the many, many times I've watched Back to the Future, but it was so subtle and cleverly integrated that I really enjoyed it. So like the DeLorean's there on the screen, you're like, oh, it's the DeLorean, but that wasn't it. It was the little bit of Back to the Future theme music, a little motif that rolled into it.
See, I'm going to have to read the book again, because I think in the book he doesn't get that until he's rich, so he gets past the first challenge. And I remember it because it's got the Knight Rider bit at the front. So he gets the DeLorean, he buys the Knight Rider upgrade, so it's got the vroom vroom at the front. And he also gets Ghostbusters stickers on the doors. Right. Which he doesn't have, and there's no reference to Ghostbusters in there, and it makes me wonder if like whoever owns the rights to it just went no. Because
I mean it's interesting. I mean, certainly one thing that crossed my mind was that Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis are really good friends. That's a known thing. There's like a little band of directors, George Lucas, Spielberg, Zemeckis, who hang out and know each other really well and have worked with each other on each other's films and stuff. So maybe he could get, just ring his buddy up and say, can I use some DeLorean stuff? And his mate be like, yeah, you bet. I mean, obviously stuff like the Jurassic Park references.
Yeah.
They're his own. But I know it's like there's a RoboCop just wandering around at one point.
Yeah.
Like a full-on RoboCop. Lots of 80s horror movies. I know there was a Freddy Krueger, or a kind of Freddy Krueger-y reference in there.
Yeah. On the Planet Doom. So the Planet Doom is basically like first-person shooter heaven. So you go to virtual reality, you go to Planet Doom, and then you're just first-person shooting each other to death forever. And everyone's just out there just battering each other.
Yeah. So I noticed that. That was good. I noticed some other little touches, little things like the patches and the button badges in the real world that they have on their, like on their rucksacks and on their jackets and stuff, were all loads of little nerdy references. There was some Star Trek stuff that I clocked. I mean, it was relentless.
It was relentless. The bits for me that was like, ooh, was when the guy's dropped into the battle, and he comes in on Serenity. That was quite. That's cool. And there's a bit, and it's such a throwaway bit, but it's like the jump. They're trying to get into this fortress, and he throws. I'd missed it the first time around. He just throws a bladed disc, and it kills a load of people and comes back to him. And it's the flipping bladed disc from Predator 2.
Yeah.
In fact, no, it's not from Predator 2. It's from Alien versus Predator, because it's quite a solid disc in Predator 2, but in Alien versus Predator, it kind of flips out to loads of blades. And it was like, wow, that is like they must have had to have gone and asked for permission for 20, like not even two, like half a second's worth of action. And it's like, that's some proper dedication to nerdgasmism. It needs to be appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, there's just bucket tons of stuff. The Holy Hand Grenade, obviously, is a great reference because I'm a Monty Python fan.
Yeah, it is cool. And then there's many aliens. Like, she has a pulse rifle when they're in the bar from Aliens. There's a whole thing where there's a chest burster, and there's a few kind of references there. But overall, it is condensed to kind of fit into a story, kind of a film time limit.
Yeah, and I just think that was the shame of it all, really, because overall, I enjoyed it. I was feeling poorly, and so it was a good film for that kind of, I'm just under my blanket, not feeling very well. And the Spielberg vibes coming off it, because he does that type of feel good so well. I tell you what, one thing I did like was the villain's agent inside the Oasis, the what's his name, IROC.
Yeah, he's cool. He's kind of Skeletor, but not.
Yeah, there was definitely Skeletor vibes coming off him, and But what was interesting about him is he was working for the villains, but he was also heavily engaged in the pop culture referential stuff himself.
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of fun and interesting. That he got it. He understood that world better than the corporation did. He was just financially motivated.
So, did you enjoy the movie?
Yeah, I did. The only thing, like I say, was the pace of it all and the ending. I didn't like the ending so much. Like, I felt like it ended really quick.
It kind of ends, doesn't it? It's. Do
you know what bothered me about the ending?
It's all done.
There was that weird, he turns up with a gun and he's at the back of the thing, and he opens it up and he threatens him with the gun, but then the cops come and get him. And that's all fine, I suppose, but I was just like, why haven't the cops come and got it? The dude used drones to blow up buildings and kill people. Yeah. Why is it now that they've only just got around to coming and getting him? And then Simon Pegg's cameo, he turns up and he says, oh, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that bent my head a little bit was this whole idea at the end where they said, one of the first things we did was we turned off the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays because the only thing that's real is reality. And I was like, so are we celebrating pop culture or aren't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, you've just spent a whole film making me feel great about the fact that I recognised, Spartan Master Chief from Halo and Freddy Krueger and like all the Shining stuff and all that. But then at the end, you told me to, no, stop it, take 2 days off. And like, well, what is it telling me? I don't understand. Should I be escaping or shouldn't I? I don't get what you're saying.
I think it's trying to say that it's like, well, and again, I need to reread the book, but I'm pretty sure it's more to do with the fact that people are getting like just not living and just being fully engaged in this virtual reality world. And again, it's hinted on like really minusculely when there's the woman who's in virtual reality and the kids behind her and there's a pan on fire. I don't know if you like.
Oh, I didn't
see it. It's that throwaway kind of that bit at the beginning when it's introducing it, and there's this woman. She's in Planet Doom fighting away, and her kid's like, "Mum," and's pulling at her, and there's a like frying pan on fire, and she's like, "Get off me, I'm busy." And I think that it angles more towards that. Although the guys created it for one reason, it's become this overwhelming thing that's kind of taken over people's lives, and then it's to give people back that sense of, feed your kids, don't let them set the house on fire.
Which is that's a good message. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
I'll take that one. I just wasn't sure because I felt like the film had celebrated all this stuff a lot. Like me and the film were in on the joke together for the vast majority of it. And then right at the end, I felt like it was saying, "Oh, but just FYI, this joke we were in on, the joke's on you."
Oh.
I was like, "Yeah, but the outside world's shit, man."
Well, I think it's got worse in the near future. But I think it again. It's been a while, but I think it angles that as part of the problem is the Oasis with the reason that people are living in stacks. Stacks of.
It's too addictive. It's too engaging.
Yeah, it's taking over. Yeah. People are in there like majority of their time only eating, sleeping, or peeing, and other than that, they're not they're not looking after the world, or you can get pizza by drone. Why would you bother doing anything else?
Oh, yeah, I mean that sounds awesome though, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's not going to be that far away though. We should have. There was Amazon drones that were hinted on a while ago.
I can get Amazon drones around here for some items.
Can you?
Yeah.
You should do it just to see it.
And same day delivery on some stuff.
Wow.
Because there's a big warehouse just up the road.
Oh, the north is so advanced.
I know, tell me about it. No, it's just because we're cheap labour. But let's not get into the politics of that. Although that is particularly relevant, I suppose, for the Ready Player One.
Yeah. Do you go into little cubicles?
Yeah, well, I don't know what goes on in that factory up the road, in that warehouse up the road, but it doesn't have a very good reputation for its working practices, which I suppose is the point. Yeah, I was just like, I totally get that whole bit of, poke your head up every now and again. There's real life going on around you kind of thing. It probably would help if I had a wife who actually liked me, who would be keen to spend Tuesdays and Thursdays with me in that kind of instance. But or even if I like my kids. But so I get all that. I just felt like it was, again, I think if the story had been given more time to unravel and some of that stuff that you're pointing out to me was more explicit, I wouldn't feel like they're like, come in, this is for you. And then at the end go, ha ha, but sort your life out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was just a bit of a feeling of that. And also, I suppose, at this point, like from my view, I'm like, I've got no problem with that. Maybe I've got the balance right in my life to some degree. And so I don't see that. I don't know. I'll tell you one other thing, actually. Sorry, just to go off on another tangent. I know you were wrapping up. I don't like Ty Sheridan as an actor at all.
Is that the main...
Yeah.
Dude.
Didn't he seem a bit wooden to you?
Well, you only need to see him a little bit at the time. The rest of the time, he's an animated avatar who's really good. I don't know if I don't recognise him from anything else.
He's Cyclops in the newer version of the X-Men.
Oh, yes, he is.
I didn't really like him in that either.
He's an odd looking. He's very averagey looking, isn't he? There's nothing to him. Sorry if you're listening.
Yeah, although that's not really my problem with him. I watched a film version of the Stanford Prison Experiment, and he was in that. He was one of the young lads who were used in the experiment, and I just felt like he was a bit bland in that. And then I thought he was really bland as Cyclops, and then I've just seen him in this Ready Player One. I just thought he was really bland in that too.
Yeah,
I mean, even just voice acting the character, I felt like he was a bit bland.
His blandness works quite well because the avatar's quite cool. And then when you cut back to in real life, it's like, oh yeah, I'd be in the Oasis all the time if I was this dude as well. so maybe that's why he was casting it. But yeah, I didn't notice it as being bad, but certainly it wasn't a standout acting performance.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, yeah, because I didn't think it was bad. I was just a bit like, oh, he's just a bit bland.
Yeah. But
just a bit meh about him.
Poor man.
Yeah, he didn't make me feel invested in him. As he's the main character, he's the hero. I just didn't feel like, like when he does his inspirational speech, saying, "Right, come on, they've got they've put a force field around the final challenge. They're trying to keep us from winning." Which I'd be like, "Yeah, they're keeping you from winning. You're already 2 keys in. Well, this means fuck all to me.
Yeah,
deal with the force field yourself, dude." But he's giving this inspirational speech, and I just didn't feel very inspired by it. Like his delivery was
bland.
Yeah, bland. That's the only word I can think. Like just vanilla.
It's no Bill Pullman from Independence Day.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't feel uplifted. I didn't feel inspired. I didn't feel like I wanted to pick up my sword and defeat the English. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Braveheart.
Or
My head was going to Braveheart as well.
Was it? Yeah. Or fly my F-16 towards an alien spaceship. You know what I mean? I didn't feel it.
No, I get that. I get that too.
Or I didn't want to come back to the third quarter and win the championship. You know what I'm saying?
Amazing. Mighty Ducks reference.
That wasn't a Mighty Ducks reference.
Or was it not?
No, that was Any Given Sunday I was referring to there. Or maybe Denzel Washington in Remember the Titans. Or Samuel L. Jackson in what was
Coach Carter.
That's it, yeah.
On a tangent, there's a new series of the Mighty Ducks Reunited, which is all about them coming back now.
I noticed it, yeah.
That might be one to watch over the Easter break, because I'm not sure if we talked about it before, but I am a humongous Mighty Ducks fan, most particularly Mighty Ducks 2 as the pinnacle between the the origin story of Mighty Ducks 1 and the drop off of Mighty Ducks 3. But that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Although it doesn't have Charlie in, which is a shame.
Oh dear, that's not cool.
Yeah, but anyway, that is Ready Player One.
There we go. Yeah, Ready Player One. So, as always, again, just please do share your thoughts in the comments below. If you've seen the film, what do you think of it? Do you agree? Do you disagree with our comments? What have you got for me next time round, then?
That is a very, very good question. Let's have a think. Not really put a lot of thought into it, if I'm honest. Well, I have, but I've been trying to keep it in line with something that's got a watch party or similar for meeting up and watching with others.
Sure. Although you can't do next Monday anyway, can you?
No, true. So it is it's an open field. So let's have a think. What should we go for? And let's go to a classic. And let's review something that we all know and love. And it's time for Back to the Future.
Oh, wow. I might even just go and do that right now.
We'll go with Back to the Future 1. However, you, as in regards, if you wanted to join in, if the conversation did not, it does.
Ow!
If the conversation doesn't stretch into Back to the Future 2 and 3, I'd be very, very surprised. So if you want to swat up, then do so.
Marty! Where are we going? We don't need roads.
Do you know, my dad, bless him, he was very, very similar to Doc Brown.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
He didn't have the wild white hair. He had a black side parting, but in many ways was quite the eccentric.
1.2 gigawatts of power. I think you can already see where this rewatch review is going.
I look forward to it. An absolute classic movie. One of the favourites, not just of mine, but of a lot of people out there, I am sure. So get on it. It's Easter Monday. Many of you might have some time off if the kids are off. But sit down, get your VHS out, slam that in, fast forward through the trailers, and let's hit Back to the Future.
Well, there we are then, folks. As all things must, this episode of MOD Extra has come to an end. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it.
And we did.
Except for Invisibles, which Andy didn't.
And I didn't.
No, you really didn't like that one.
I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed talking about it and finding out what your view were.
It's a tough one. It is definitely a tough one. I knew it was a tough one when I brought it up. I forgot to mention, actually, Ready Player One. That was the first time I've ever seen it. I'd not seen it up till that point.
That was quite cool. I quite like that element of it.
Yeah. I'd not seen it up to that point.
And if you actually read books, you could enjoy the book.
Nah.
Don't
read fiction.
No, too busy with your tricolores. Which will make no sense to anyone whatsoever.
It was a journal. I was reading a journal. It was a quarterly journal.
Someone's diary.
No, not that kind of journal, like an academic journal.
Like a grown-up stuff.
It comes out every 3 months.
I'm quite surprised that you don't read novels.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know? All right. Well, just a momentary Chris tangent. Let me put some further context around that for you.
Okay.
So my degree that I did at university is in English literature.
Wow. No way.
Yeah.
And that
I used to read a lot of novels. I used to read plays. I used to read poetry. Enjoyed it a great deal. And then I went to university to study it because I was really into it. And the university experience of studying English literature killed reading novels for me. Just destroyed all pleasure that I found in it whatsoever. Because I was forced to read stuff that I wasn't enjoying. We had reading lists, and they had to write essays. And then what used to happen, which is quite ironic, really, when you consider how I intellectualize films all the time. And it was a really dirgy experience. It really ruined a lot of great classic novels for me. It ruined the experience of reading, and I went many years not reading any fiction at all as a result of it. Because I was forced to read stuff that I didn't enjoy.
Well, I'll follow your story up with a quick story about myself that as a child loved to draw and paint and be creative and very artistic all the way through school. Did a fine art degree at university where everything was scrutinised and analysed and ruined the artistic side of art for me, and I didn't bother doing it after university since. So the moral of this story, folks, is if you like something, don't go and study at university because it'll break it and you'll never want to do it again.
That appears to be the case, doesn't it? We're 2 for 2 on that
Isn't
one.
It?
2 for 2.
Yeah, completely the same story with me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's obviously spilled out into other things because as we're probably now starting to gather 11 episodes in, I can't watch anything without, textually analysing the fucking thing.
Yeah. Like, I'll tell you, this is a question. Sorry, I know this is going to be a short outro. But if you see flaws in a storyline, and most storylines in films and TV shows have flaws, does it ruin the experience of the film for you?
It can affect it. Yeah, it can, definitely.
Yeah. My wife, if she watches something and then it doesn't make sense, or, it's like, well, that's not going to happen, then that's ruined for her. I myself am in a place where I can glaze over stuff and say, well, maybe there's a reason for it, and still enjoy a story, be it, in whatever book, film, whatever, even if there is some flaws to it. But for her, if there's like stupid things, then that don't make sense, it ruins it. And she's like, well, yeah, it was good, but it doesn't make sense. I don't like it.
Yeah, I can be the same, definitely. There can be stuff that happens. I'm just like, no, I think what happened, I don't know whether we were recording when I said this or before we were recording, but in movies particularly, I like the movie to engage me and make me feel involved in it. Like that, I want to put my phone down, and just watch the film. And if something takes me out of the experience, that's when it's done for me. Do you get what I mean? So if I don't feel immersed,
can't get back in again.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, in fact, I think I talked about this with the Michael Bay stuff. Like the minute my eyes go, oh, he's moving the camera again. He's moving the camera. And I become suddenly heightenedly aware of someone's made this. And he's that thing that's happening in front of me. And it's always going to be intentional. But if I suddenly realise that it's intentional, like I do with Michael Bay all the time, then I can't get back into it.
Right,
and I'm lost. 24 is an interesting in this space, actually, because when I first started watching 24, I got my hands on a box set and binged it back to back. And then when I caught up with what was being televised, I then jumped over to start watching it, week in, week out on the telly. And the minute I started watching it week in, week out on the telly, I didn't like it. I liked it half as much as I liked it when I watched it on the box sets. And then Jo wanted to catch up. She was like, oh, no, I want to watch that season that you've just watched on telly, because basically I raced ahead of her. And so I got my hands on the box sets for her, and we watched it on the box sets. I was like, no, I'm really enjoying this. And I realised that it was because the adverts and the week wait was taking me out of, like, because 24 is so overwrought and melodramatic and tense that the interruption to that when it was on TV, because there was ad breaks and then I had to wait a week for the next episode, didn't work. But then in the box set, I obviously could really immerse myself in the melodrama and therefore go with it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. I am. I've not had to watch anything that's that dramatic with adverts in for a while. So it'll be interesting to see. It's been ages where I've not been able to just watch what I want when I want to watch it. But I can see how it would drag you out. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the same when if I notice something in a film or there's a plot point where I'm just like, oh, really? That I'm suddenly, I've disengaged and I become very aware that I'm watching a film. When I don't like that, I like to watch a film.
Yeah. Reminds me when I was a kid, we're going to the cinema and be in like watching a movie and then I don't know if maybe a lull in the storyline or someone coughed or moved something, and then I'd like your eyes would adjust and you'd be like, oh, hold on, I'm sat in a cinema. I'd be that engrossed in the movie that you wouldn't know you're sat in a theater with loads of other people. You'd just be watching that, and then the step back, maybe like back in the 80s where like you'd see a cigarette, the end of a cigarette light up, and someone smoking on the smoking side of the cinema because that was safe for children to have. Smoke didn't come across. But yeah, getting that engaged in a story and then being pulled out.
Yeah, so I agree with your missus, definitely.
Cool. I'd like to take this little point here just to remind you of our socials. So you can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/ModXtraCast. You can find us on Twitch, and do join us on Twitch. We're around semi-regularly doing all sorts of bizarre and wonderful things. That is ModXtra on Twitch. You can find us on the Discord, which I quite like now, by finding the link on our Facebook page or at brickroller6.com, which is a website that mostly covers all things Dice Masters. If you're interested in Dice Masters, then check that out. But also the link to our Discord, which we chat about more than just Dice Masters. There's loads of subtopics and different things that we all talk about there as well. If I'm missing anything?
Yeah, I'll put I'll put an open link into the description for the Discord.
Oh, cool. Good plan.
It goes a little quiet every now and again. I think we need some more people to keep the conversation moving.
Join us.
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, there we go. That wraps up episode 11. Come back to in 2 weeks for a conversation around Death of Superman and Back to the Future. But in the meantime, I've been Chris, otherwise known online as the True Mr. Six.
And I've been Andy, a.k.a. Biff Talon.
Indeed you are. Take it easy, folks.
See you later, bye. Yeah.
Sorry, Joe just wandered in the room really randomly. Do you need something, love? Sellotape. You've just completely put me off my... I was right in the middle of a really great point. Well... there's my sellotape upstairs on my desk. Oh, well, it'll be in the box with those other envelopes I did today. Put it back, though. Such a filthy sellotape thief. So Parsifal, they